Watch out, let me get a shot. Where they at? Where they at? Put on that rooftop. Hey! Give me a fucking 42 in the United States!
We're east of the riverbed. And, we're taking fire from the west. Roger, stand by, we're popping smoke. Gun runs north and south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke.
Okay, copy. West of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now.
Give it to me, I need it. You're cleared hot.
Copy, cleared hot.
Welcome to the Combat Leadership Podcast. Here's our host, Mike Etor.
Thom Shea is a retired Navy SEAL and author of books titled Unbreakable, A Navy SEAL's Way of Life, and Three Simple Things. He's also a high-performance coach and teaches leaders, athletes, and high achievers how to thrive in chaos, build unshakable discipline, and win in every area of life. During several combat deployments, Thom participated in numerous combat actions, was awarded the Silver Star and other medals for valor on the battlefield. In the second of two episodes, Thom shares sage insights and advice, and I know the future combat leaders are going to love hearing more. As you know, the first episode went great, and for those watching this video, before you watch part two, which this is, I recommend you go back to part one. It'll give you more context, because we're going to pick up right where we left off, Thom. When we left off, you spoke eloquently on the fog of war, and now we're on to that another one, hard to define, mental toughness. So, and you from a frogman background, you guys are all about it. So I guess the initial question is, on that topic, how important is it for warriors, any warrior, to be mentally tough, tenacious, and self-reliant? I know the answer is, of course, it's important, but what do you think? What else? How can you go deeper on that?
Mental toughness is not something they probably didn't even talk about in the Marine Corps. It's not a class you go to. Go to mental toughness class like sniper school is a school. There's no school, there's no direct linear learning how to be mentally tough. And, since I've been out, I've been asset. So how do I acquire, business owners or people that I train? How do I acquire mental toughness? It's a very difficult answer, except you have to understand how programs like, I don't know if combat's a program, how combat produces mental toughness, how SEAL training produces mental toughness as a byproduct. And I often think, how would you inject mental toughness into a business? There's a way to do it. Mental toughness comes from long, complicated hours trying to learn something. It could be anything. I actually think my wife, when when a woman gets pregnant, goes through that 8 to 9 months of chaos. The body falls apart. It gets big and fat. They don't want to do it anymore. And then you pass through that and you look back and you say, I think I'm tougher for it. And Mike, when you're going through hard times, you don't feel tough during them. You feel less. But when you look back, you reflect on it as mental toughness. I'm not trying to evade the topic, but you have to go through complicated, repetitively complicated things that break you down. And then you got to build yourself back up to some ability to do simple tasks during chaotic situations, which I think is what mental toughness is. Am I able to do this at 3 o'clock in the morning when I don't want to, and there's bullets shooting at me? Can I shoot my gun the way that the chiefs or the sergeants have taught me to do that? Can I do that? To me, that's what mental toughness is.
Yeah, I thank you for that. And I'm going to hop around here. So, I'm not a SEAL. I've read a lot about it, listened to a lot of podcasts, and certainly, if anybody that gets through your program is mentally tough, you're not going to get through that without having the resolve to get through that, because I think a lot of it's engineered to make your life so miserable that if there's a crack in that confidence and that commitment, it's going to surface. For most guys, it does for one reason or the other. So I want to talk, more conventional soldiers, which the majority of people watching this are going to be. We're going to talk about training in a couple of topics, but, I say, from me observing in my personal experience, if you do realistic training and you're really training these guys up for combat and you're replicating the chaos and the conditions to the extent you can in peacetime, it should be hard enough at some point where you've pushed these guys at least to their perceived limits. They haven't slept in a couple of days, they're hungry, they're dehydrated, it's cold as shit, or whatever the case may be. So I'm really asking for your advice for, the rifle company commander, or even the SEAL platoon commander with his, senior chief and all of that. It seems like you said, I don't think at BUD/S there's any mental toughness test you got to get through, like pool comp or something, It's just there. And so what's your thoughts on just good, hard training and doing hard things and putting people in environments that the only way they're going to get through it is developing that grit, so to speak?
Well, that's the $1 million question again, Mike. I think from the outside, we all use terms like mental toughness and grit. The inside is way different. Things don't have to be excruciatingly difficult to start getting that scar tissue that, as we would call it, grit. It happens slowly. From the inside, what I think grit and mental toughness is like nothing in training is impossible. I didn't think combat was impossible. I thought it was clearer than the actual training was. But the slow, on Monday, you go do something difficult, long run, long swim, you're cold, there's complications. Boy, Mike, I don't like dealing with you. And that's on Monday. And then Tuesday, I got to go in and do it again. Whether we corrected the problem or not, I have to go do what I promised to do. Get there on time, get the right gear, shoot straight, whatever the paradigm is that we're trying to put together. It doesn't have to be brutal. It happens in like millimeters. I fall apart. You and I get in an argument. We recover. We start on Tuesday. We have another problem that we recover from. It never gets, perfect. The people that want perfection, that want the ideal situation to happen, never get mental toughness because it never gets there. And can you continually operate in a nebulous environment as a Marine leader, as a soldier, even a pilot? Can you come back when it still is gray and you don't know if you can do it? And you just come back, okay, it's a whole new day. I'm going to do the best I can right now. Even if you're in the middle of a divorce, can you keep coming back to it? So that's the operator's point of view. Do I want to keep coming back? Wednesdays, I hate Wednesdays, but I got to go to work. From the inside, it's a grind. It's not overcomplicated, but man, I'm going to go back to work and do the best I can. And that to me, over a period of years, becomes such hard scar tissue that something dramatic happens, like you lose a soldier, you lose a buddy, or you don't hit the target, or major injuries happen, and you're like, okay, that's happened, let's go. People who haven't gone through years and years of that grind, they don't have what it takes, and what I would call that mental toughness. They don't have what it takes to come back to the table. And they don't, mental toughness to me is I'm not going to overreact. No matter how bad it is, we have 20 rounds left and there's 15 people running at us. Okay, everybody calm down. We have 20 rounds, guys, and there's 15. Everybody just shoot straight, and I think it'll work out. As opposed to the people who aren't tough, they go off on tangents. They overcomplicate things because they've never had 1,000 experiences like this to draw from. And maybe a weird way of saying that, clearly an enlisted way to say that. Maybe officers would say it differently. I never demanded toughness in people. I just demanded that they come back. Keep in the game, keep in the fight, and don't bail on the process that we're trying to put together.
That's a pretty astute comment because, I was thinking right after you said that, I said, I never in my time in the Marine Corps or listening to all these podcasts, I never heard anybody say, we got rid of him because he wasn't mentally tough enough. They will get rid of you, to your point, if you don't come back, if you can't, if you can't do the operations, if you just can't perform, then you're going to go somewhere,
Yeah, so people get catatonic. I've seen people go catatonic, like they can't process anything. And I've seen people that you don't think are tough at all, able to function at a really high level, which to me is just do what you said you would do, even if you're cold. Yeah. Even if, a guy named Mike Day got shot 26 times and still was processing it. He didn't panic. He'd been knocked out, came to, he's bleeding out of every hole that he has in his body. And he's still processing that because he's been there so many times. Just keep processing it. And, like the thing, as long as you don't give up, you're tough. Yeah. And if you have some limit at which you'll stop operating, that's the limit at which your toughness can be observed.
Yes. So an offshoot of this warrior spirit thing, in part one, you gave some very high compliments to the Marine Corps. Like, hey, these guys, they show up. They're not as well trained as us. They got no ammo like us. They're shiny ass rifles because they're focusing on drill and inspections. But they will show up and fight to the death, Yep. And I will tell you, in a reverse compliment, my experience with frogmen there's a few things you can count on those guys for too. And those guys also, if they're next to you, you can count on them. You're never going to have to look and see if they're there. Those guys are here to fight. You know what I mean? They're going to fight. They're going to die before they quit. And so if we're talking about that's the desired end state, what are your thoughts about how do you think, how's that compliment that I paid the SEAL teams? How do you guys do that? How do you develop that fighting spirit and aggressiveness? I know the Silver Star action that, you were decorated for, and you talked about that in part one where, you guys pretty much thought you were going to cash it in. And one guy, said something and everybody else got uplifted. We're going to do this and all of that. You guys came back. Is there any way you think that you can best groom and incrementally develop that kind of aggressiveness and just, I'm here to fight. We're going to fight. Let's go,
Yes, there's a method or a process. I haven't gone through Delta selection. They have this similar process. And I haven't gone through Marine Corps. But they produce a similar outcome. And it's a process. And the process is rather simple to talk about. We don't care. We don't have a predetermined notion who we want. Like, we don't want 6'2", 240. I don't care if he's 5'3" and 90 pounds soaking wet. I don't care if he's come from a bad environment. I don't care. What the SEAL program does, because I can talk to it, is we're going to train you by showing you how to do something, and then you show it back to us through training and prep. And we're going to repeat this slowly over time, and then we're going to give you a crucible, which is for our training, it's called Hell Week. at least in first phase. Second phase is another crucible, and third phase there's another crucible. A series of long-standing, arduous trainings that you can do that you're going to fail at doing 8 out of the 10 times. And when here's the crux to it that businesses don't get. You're supposed to teach people to fail and recover, fail and recover, fail and recover. And the people teaching you will keep teaching you if you don't give up. Like, I want people to fail and then come back on Tuesday and then start taking their hat off. Like, okay, you did it your way and it didn't work. I'm going to show you again how to do this. And it may not work this time, but you're going to have to pick this up in 5 days. Otherwise, I don't care where you came from, you're gone. So we call that a selection process, that you learn skills, and you learn how to adapt, and you work with each other, whether you like each other or not, and pick up skills quickly. And then we're going to give you a crucible. We're not going to give you any new things to learn, but we're going to make you demonstrate these skills as you're unraveling as a human being. So the Hell Week phenomenon is literally there. I wish companies would do this. It would cost more up front, and then they would have retention at a level, and esprit de corps at a level that no company would ever have to fire anybody.
Yeah.
So that crucible makes you fall apart. And the instructors are there with you, watching you fall apart and keeping you going when you don't think I can anymore. And then you pass through that crucible. And that is, once you go through one crucible and the instructors don't abandon you, because you're at your worst. You're not human anymore. You can hardly talk. You can't function. And with their encouragement, you keep going and you graduate that crucible. So when combat comes and things are out of control, all you know to do is it's a lot easier to get in the fight and then run from it. Because all the people that ran from it, because you talk to all the people who quit buds, at least as a student, their life doesn't go very well. So you learn, man, it's a lot easier to pass or fight towards things than run from them, because everybody who quits and runs has a worse life than the ones that go into the fight. So like the Marines, it's easy to get a Marine to do something because it's a hell of a lot better than them doing the stuff that the admin stuff. They came to fight. You give an opportunity to fight, and they'll come.
Yeah.
And you give SEALs opportunity to fight. Like, oh man, thank God, I know how to do this, and I've already fallen apart 1,000 times, and I haven't died doing it. Probably not likely that my brain is always thinking I'm going to die. Like every helo is going to crash that I've ever been on, and it doesn't. And eventually you're like, let's just run to the sound of the guns. It's more familiar and more comfortable doing that than it is pulling away, feeling less about myself. So that, to me, it's a weird way to describe it, is if you go through these arduous processes, and it's a lot easier to keep processing them. That's why a lot of people just go back into combat. Like when life's falling apart, I know what to do here. It's just people shooting at you. If you can get the draw on them, everybody can shoot well. Like SEALs can shoot really well. Don't let the guy, if the enemy shoots and misses, they're screwed. Like the Marine Corps, the enemy shot at us. Everybody, all the whole company of Marines or platoon of Marines is going to shoot this guy because the guy missed. You know what I'm saying? And that way, it's a, tongue-in-cheek way of describing that. the desire to be in combat next to other people who are not going to run is a draw that most people who've been in combat and can function. It's a lot easier life to process that. It has been for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I want to throw an adjunct question on there, though. Oh, I can't remember the guy's name. The guy that was the Buds CO, and they raked him over the coals when that kid died, and he had been using steroids and that a few years ago. You remember that?
Oh yeah, Jerry. Last name Jerry. Yeah.
And he talked about. So he was talking about his time at Dev Group. Yeah. And he said something, and I might not be getting it right, but he said, these are some hard guys, best guys I've ever been associated with, and they're stone cold killers, but we have to maintain a fine balance between being somebody that is, that can apply that violence. We want guys that can intelligently and selectively apply violence. Because we, unlike the enemy, we just don't go out and kill civilians and mow people down. Any thoughts on that about, hey, on one hand, we want guys to go out there and chew people's throats out. On the other hand, not so fast, fellas. You got to use intelligence and restraint, and we're not terrorists. We're not murderers. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's probably two different topics that you kind of rolled into one. With practice and experience and multiple combat experiences, there's a phrase that's used called combat patience. You don't have to run into the sound of the guns. If we have 18 alternatives. We could enter the house, we could delay here, we could have them come out, we could send in a dog. Multiple things we can do here, guys. Just be patient. You don't learn combat patience for about 5 years in the SEAL teams because it's all forward all the time. And then you realize, man, we could have done that differently. Why don't we just slow down? So the combat patience conversation is what I call it warrior wisdom. There's 100 ways to do this, and we don't even have to do it today. The other topic is the ability to pull the trigger and not have it affect you. Some guys have it. Some guys war with it. They're good in combat, but they still, battle with it inside. And some guys just can't do it. I think you weed out in most combat units the guys who just can't do it for some moral conviction. And then there's always I don't know if the percentage, there's guys that I call it hold my beer. Here, hold my beer. They go do something very violent, and then they come back and grab their beer, and they're back in the conversation that they're in with you. Maybe those are sociopathic people. I have no idea. But there's some people who cannot deal well with multiple having pulled the trigger and seeing people die. And I don't think that those two will ever go away. There will be the sociopaths and the people who have PTSD regarding it, or they keep carrying it around with you, and they have a conviction to it, and then they're conflicted with it too. And I don't have an easy answer to that. Some people have conflict.
Yeah, I think the term they're using for that. Yeah, I think the term they're using for that nowadays is moral injury.
Yeah.
And I think it's subjective. I think one man's moral injury is I hated to shoot the guy, but he was out there and he had an RPG. So he's going to go. He's got to, no problem. What's for lunch,
we talk, you talk about it on deployment, before deployment, people who have hunted animals and killed them, they're less likely to have that moral, division or break in their demeanor. But I just, I have kids to get home to. It's either if I die, who's going to raise my kids? So I had mentally just, I'll blow up everything in the world to get home. I don't have any issue with that. But some people do. And you can't tell them not to have it. It's like it's like telling a left-handed person not to be left dominant. You could wish for that, but there are people who have these things. It's a battle, but you got to let them fight that battle, know that they're fighting it, encourage them not to fight it in the middle of it. You can fight it later, but don't delay pulling that trigger or making a violent decision in the middle of the battle.
Yeah. So I want to go back real quick to the combat patience. You sparked a thought when you were saying that. I love it. Warrior wisdom. I'm going to quote you on that. I wrote that down. I'm going to quote you on that in the future, Tom. But I want to go in a topic that's aligned to this. I think whether it's a Marine or a SEAL or a Ranger or whatever, I think when they're brand new, first combat deployment, they got the aggressiveness and they've been looking forward to this. They want to prove themselves. So you don't have the aggressiveness box and willingness to shoot is checked off already. They're ready to go. And there is a critical need, I say, for the older petty officer, corporal, sergeant, the older guy who has to have that combat patience to say, oh, hey, let's not run to our death here. Mm-hmm. Someone has to have combat patience, and 100%. Typically I don't think it's the new guy. But my thought is, I know you're agreeing with me, because in the long wars, the guys that had that combat patience, they were on their 4th, 5th, 8th combat deployment. Yeah. What about the people listening to this video, and it's like, well, shit, I'm the petty officer now, and none of us got combat experience. I'm the gunnery sergeant and staff sergeant. Are you still saying I got to have that? And I'm saying, yeah, you got to have it. It's either going to be there, or you can have another, really unfortunate high-vis situation happen, because the 18-year-old American boy, you turn him loose. He cannot be turned loose completely. He's got to have someone with their hand on his collar saying, ooh, come on back here, stud. Any thoughts on that?
There are many ways to say that. The way you articulate is probably the best. Somebody has to take a step back. You pray and hope, which are terrible things, those two terrible words. I pray something will happen and I hope something will happen, which are terrible things. But you pray and hope your officer takes a step back. And I say that because they have to think in totality. If I'm only on the offense and I unleash the hounds, I won't be able to, if I'm looking forward only and I don't look back and I don't pause, I guarantee you're going to make a mistake. Like if you're single dimensional, the enemy will pull you into something that you cannot win. If it's not the officer, then the senior enlisted guy making the calls has to just pause a moment. And that 5-second, 10-second pause, your eyes open up. You can see more. You're not focused on the one shooter. You're not focused on the one problem. You see multiple problems and go, wow, we can't solve 10 problems right here. Let's back away. We're not cowards for backing away. We got drawn into something. And if all we do is unleash the hounds of hell, all the hounds will go forward because they're okay with going forward. And that's their job, is to focus on one particular thing, their field of fire, without somebody going, hey, slow down. There's 1,000 ways to do this. In a SEAL platoon, a majority of the guys have it. At Team 6 or Delta, or even, even the Green Beret, majority of them have it too. I would say 99% of the Team 6 operators have, tactical patience. let the guy run. Let the Apache kill him. I don't have to make the kill. You know what I mean? We even evolved it from, we used to do dynamic entry, like everybody run into the house, and it's quick and it's lethal in training, except when there's an enemy and they're shooting. We lost a lot of SEALs doing dynamic entry to where the veteran SEALs were like, why are we doing this? Is there another way? Like, I'll take my hat off, show me another way. So the FBI showed us, we're like, how do you guys do that? Well, we never run in there. That's crazy. Why don't you just do it from the outside? Surround the building and have them come out. We're like, is that an option? You're like, yeah. They're not going anywhere. If they want to blow themselves up, that's even better. And it took us literally taking our hat off, that's what wisdom is I made a mistake. Anybody else have a solution? That's beautiful. Now let's go see if we can do it. And that happens with, which is wisdom, making mistakes over time that you don't die from, that you can learn from. And that's where tactical patience comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. In fact, I've listened to a bunch of SEAL podcasts, Marine, whatever, and they've all said, the CQB, the kicking doors, which is glamorous, we all wanted to do it. That was our first option. Then we're like, why don't we just try surrounding them, putting the interpreter on the bullhorn and saying, you guys are fucked, you're surrounded, come on out. And they said, more often than not, they came out. And we realized it was a family in there, not a bad guy. Or there's a family in there, like, pointing up at the second floor, Well, so I want to say this. I don't know, are you aware of the former SEAL named Sean Ryan that's got a podcast?
I do. I know him really well. He was a student I put through training. Yeah.
Cool. Well, he had a podcast episode recently with a guy who's got like one of the leading drone companies in America, doing a lot of work with the military and law enforcement. And during the break, he was given a demo, and he said exactly what you're saying. CQB has now realized that, why don't we call him out first? He goes, listen, we've got drones now that will go in. The interpreter can talk through the drone. If they don't come out, we can put a drone, knock that door down, and fly little drones in the house. Mm-hmm. And so he said, what we are predicting and what some of these tier 1 guys are saying is CQB may be going by the way of the dodo bird. Mm-hmm. If this technology is there, it may be a skill that we do, but we hopefully, we've gone from almost always doing it to rarely doing it. With the technology that's going to be available. So it's the changing face of war for sure. Any thoughts on that? I don't know if you'd heard about this or not.
If you've been around a little bit longer than me, war changes all the time, except there's one premise to it. You still have to put guys in there. Eventually, somebody's got to go that has all the skills that you need to have. CQC will never go away, because what happens when the batteries fail? What happens if your drone gets blown up? What happens if maybe we're not going after the enemy, we're running from the enemy, and we have to go into an unknown house? You still have to have the skills. Technology increases your capacity, but it should never decrease your bottom line skill set. Just because we have jets doesn't mean that people should stop walking. You know what I mean? Yeah. The helo sometimes can crash, so I still need to be in shape. Technology, I saw, because I was in charge of research and development my last 2 years. Beautiful technology. Technology is great until you don't have it.
Yeah.
So as bad as I'm sure Marines complain about walking and carrying rucks. Bro, what happens if the vehicle falls? You still got to get there, or you still got to run away from the enemy. Yeah. And I don't care how much technology. The people who are really gifted at tactics will always do well.
Yeah. Well, that's a great segue because the next couple of topics are physical conditioning and training for combat, and they're highly interrelated. I mean, interrelated. And I'm a proponent of what you just said. You know, World War II, there was no PFT for Marines. Physical conditioning up until the late 60s in the Marine Corps. The late 60s was forced marches. Put your shit on, and we're going 10 miles, 15 miles, 25 miles. And I think I'd rather run 10 miles than hump 10 miles under a heavy load at night. It's just so friggin' hard mentally. And there's a reason why a lot of your elite units, the hardest thing that they do in their selection is some kind of long distance navigation. They don't know the time hacks or anything like that. So I want to talk about physical conditioning right now because obviously that it's not so much physical conditioning, it's the end state. Can you perform in combat? And what that means is not one off, the mission, so to speak, you do once in your career. No, we're in Iraq or Afghanistan. It's 120 degrees at night, 130 during the day. We all lost 30 pounds and we're here for months at a time. We're slogging a mission or two every night and all of that. So you have to be physically fit, healthy and physically fit to the point you can endure that. So I want to get your thoughts on what worked for you, because I do think in peacetime, because my combat experiences were they were the short missions, Grenada, Beirut, Desert Storm. So we didn't, the long-term endurance that you guys had to have never came into question during that. So I was largely a peacetime Marine I was fortunate to be in the right spot. And I got to tell you, the Marine Corps in particular succumbed to what I call silk shorts, conditioning. We're running triathlons, we're doing this. But you take those same guys, many of them, when you put a heavy load on them and it's 5 days into it and they don't have their special fuel and, whatever they're doing, they're not that good and all that. So what worked for you? What advice do you have these guys, especially now in peacetime, about really no bullshit, hard physical conditioning? And is that via training or whatever? Because I don't know if you can talk about it without talking about training and vice versa and all that. So I'll stop blathering, and I know you got thoughts on this, Thom.
The premise of what I do now is I use the term baseline. Whether you're in the military or whether you own a company, whether you're a dad, the better your health is, the more capable you will be. So what is a baseline? You have to be at some baseline level of physical strength that you're not a liability to the people around you. It doesn't mean that you don't have fat on you. It doesn't mean that, you look cool in the mirror. That has nothing to do with health anyway. The way to get to a baseline is you literally have to work out every day. Every day that ends in Y. It's not a 50-mile hike with a 40-pound ruck. It's none of the hard stuff that makes you an asset. It's that you have layers of easy stuff built over time. Nothing worse in life than to be out of shape. It's horrible. And it's an easy thing to do. When you're forced to do it, like the Marine Corps seems to be forced to do PT, you kind of take it as, man, when I want time off, I'm not going to do this. But somebody like Chesty, use him as an example. You have to be hard. Otherwise, he's going to destroy you anyway. The bosses will kill you. Yeah. But especially if you're going to be a warrior, your foundation is that you're athletically fit. Through the process of being fit, you can do harder things. And, Marine Corps has got to carry weight. SEALs have to learn how to swim and stay swimming. You have to keep swimming. And given that nature, it's your responsibility to do it and nobody else's. And when you figure that out, it's a whole different ball game. I'm not standing on my soapbox trying to preach that, but in the teams, if you're not fit, they'll just say you're done. So it's either forced on you or you take it under your wing, and it is my responsibility to stay in shape. I did it by just working out every day. Some days I'd do a lot of swimming. Some days I'd put a pack on my back and hike. Some days I would even just walking down the beach, just get my feet comfortable with walking in the sand. That's better than zero. And I try not to overcomplicate it. There's a million workout programs, but nobody does them. Just be consistent and your life will change. The most consistent person wins every time, unless they get shot or injured. But that's the key to being hard, especially military, related to military hardness, physical hardness. They're going to work out. If you give them an hour instead of sitting down watching TV, somebody who's an operator will take that time to stretch, do something, work out, because it will determine your life later when it's needed. I don't know if it's a great answer, but yeah.
No, it is. In fact, you touched on two things, and I want to elaborate on this a bit and get your thoughts on it. You said health and then fitness. And so my theory is it's the fitness that enables you in Iraq to keep up with the grind day after day.
100%.
Day after day. It's your health prior to arriving in the AO that determines your body's ability to sustain it day after day. Because you can have all the guts in the world, as you know, Thom, but if you have an unhealthy body, it is going to break down, whether you realize it, whether you want it to or not. Guts does not have nothing to do with it, you know. And so I guess what I'm telling the youngsters out there is, don't just focus on yourself. You know, Thom's talking to you, individual responsibility. Yes. And that goes, Mike says, for health as well as fitness. There's a lot to treating your body right, eating right, and things like that. You know, I'll get off my soapbox, but with one anecdote, I'm not sure you're aware of it, and I bet most Marines aren't. Well, you're probably aware of this, Thom. And as a rifle company commander, the quickest way in the Marine Corps that you can get the wrong kind of famous is if your guys miss a dental appointment. Holy shit. If your guys miss a dental appointment, it's like somebody murdered somebody.
You're now the worst leader in the world.
Holy shit. And somebody explained, they used to explain it to us, well, here's why the Marine Corps is so anal retentive about the dental and having everybody ready to go should we go. The number one reason why troops in Vietnam, Marines in Vietnam, had to get evac from the field, dental problems. Number one reason.
I believe it. Yep.
Not wounds, not heat exhaustion, dental, because they were taking kids, and a lot of them, bad, country boys, whatever, didn't brush their teeth, and they said never again. They did the data, never again, and so they got an anal fixation. And I'll bet there's Marines listening to it today and say, "Oh my God, same shit, boy! You can be chesty puller, and if you miss a dental appointment, one guy, you'll be answering to it." So I want to roll.
That's why I use the term baseline. Like, what are the base things that that are my responsibility to do, and you can do your own health, bro. You can brush your teeth. It's the easy stuff that people miss. That's catastrophic.
Yeah,
they can do hard stuff. Like, it's easier to do one hard thing than to keep a baseline effort going over time.
Yeah,
and if everybody's responsible to baseline, which to me is the epitome of the SEAL teams, It's your responsibility to stay in shape. We'll do things as a platoon, but if we don't blame it on me, because if you show up out of shape, you're gone. And, baseline even at home, baseline stuff at home, baseline stuff at work makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I want to throw a Chesty Puller anecdote on you that you might not be aware of, and most Marines. So most Marines will probably know, especially the senior guys, there's a book on Chesty Puller called Marine, and it's a biography on Chesty, and they got his personal papers when he died, his diaries and stuff. Chesty was stationed in China. There was a brigade stationed in China pre-World War II. And they had multiple nations there. One of them was the Japanese. And Chesty said, I used to watch these guys every single day. The Japanese garrison force marched by us. And we figured out where they were going. So they were doing about 15 to 20 miles. And he said they did it every day, rain, snow, whatever. And his diary said, these guys would be a formidable enemy to face. And it wasn't another 10 years before he was facing them. And as you know, the Japanese, you had to kill those guys.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I have never met a World War II guy from the Pacific. They may have hated the Japanese. The Japanese were ruthless, but they said, oh no, these guys fight to the death. They weren't going to surrender. They weren't going to quit. They would keep coming at you, So it goes back, it's just an anecdote, but it goes back. Why did he say that? Because Chesty knew how hard that forced march was. And they were establishing a baseline. Now, who knows what else they were doing before and after that. But the baseline physically is we're doing 20 miles a day, 365, So,
we were talking about technology before. Whether you got a helo, excuse me, whether you got a helo or some AI-driven tech that will come in and do the job for you. It's like relying on somebody else to do your job. Eventually, they won't be there. You still got to do it.
Yep.
And, we're talking about, being physically fit and having grit. You still got to have that.
Yeah.
There's no point in time where it's ever a bad thing to have. And if you don't have it, it's catastrophic. It's like it's always a positive, and if you don't have it, it's the most catastrophic negative that you could ever bring to the table. And don't ever forget that. Like military leaders, even at the top, which I think it goes astray at the top, the admirals and generals are supposed to be fit too. And
I agree with that.
That's the key. If you're not fit, you're going to make bad decisions about the guys that you're sending in and the men and women that you're sending in.
Oh, you're exactly right. And I know you deal with the corporate world, and I put a post up on LinkedIn, as am I. I do the executive coaching and all that. I put a post up, and some people took umbrage because I said the headline was, "Why so few fat executives?" And I said, listen, fellas, I'm just telling you from my vantage point, I don't see a lot of fat guys up in the upper ranks. Because these guys are excellence focused, and they're usually excellence focused in all aspects of their life. And what you may not know is, all else being equal, they're not going to pick the overweight guy. He just doesn't project that executive, image and all that. Well, people are coming back saying, well, there's laws against it. I'm like, I'm telling you, there's laws, and then there's the unspoken reality, baby. And all I'm telling you is, I know exceptions exist. I'm not seeing too many of them. So my message.
I'm not a big fan of laws anyway, because they're always written for the least common denominator.
Right, exactly.
To accommodate people who didn't have potential.
Yeah, that's, are you telling me that I might get passed over just because I've let myself go and I don't look good? That's exactly what I'm telling you.
100%. Yep.
The employer's never going to tell you. No one's ever going to tell you that was the factor. I'm telling you, it's a factor. So don't let yourself go, young
100%.
guys. Don't let yourself go. I don't care how many MBAs you got and all that. If you don't look the part. And another thing that Tom, that a lot of people didn't know when I posted that, they said, I didn't know that. For the real larger corporations, when it comes down to the finalists for a no-shit senior executive role, most of them make you take a physical with their doctor. It's like, we're getting ready to invest a lot of money in you, and you're going to have a severance agreement. If we have to send you away because you're sick, you're going to get a few $1 million. Therefore, we're not going to do that lightly. We want to know. We want to know. And so the doctors say, hey, this guy's a good guy, but he's got a congenital heart defect. And, you watch him, and it might be a factor and all that. And if you don't take the physical, you're disqualified yourself. Yeah. It's part of the process and all that. Anyway, I'm digressing.
I wish that was more openly understood, or even openly just expressed. If you're not fit, you can't progress.
Yes, exactly.
Because it's different being sick. Like you have a car accident, or you get an illness, or you get cancer. That's a different factor. Maybe there's a delay for a while until you solve, an acute thing. But a chronic thing, it makes bad things happen to good people.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Well, I want to give you one last shot on the physical conditioning thing before we roll into training for combat. Is there anything in hindsight that, pre-combat deployments, because you had been a SEAL a long time, that you said, in hindsight, I would have spent more time on this for my health and fitness prior to the demands of Afghanistan or Iraq and all that? Any things that you said?
I don't know if I have specificity. Like, I should have had better upper body strength. I should have had more cardio. I've just never I've never heard anybody say I overtrained for this.
Yeah.
I've always heard 90% of the people say, I could have done more.
Yeah.
Ooh, I could have done a little more. I could less pie or whatever you were doing. I always felt I could have been a little stronger, and I could have prepared a little better. And, and we were in shape. You can always prepare a little bit more. I know professional, or not wrestlers. I know a guy named Kyle Dake, who's a 5-time world champion. He always says I could have done a little more, and he's a world champion. Yeah. I could have done more push-ups, or get a little stronger grip strength, or practice the technique more, and take that to heart. You will always arrive where you wanted to be and say, I could have done more to get here.
Yeah. Well, I was a wrestler in college. I wrestled at the D1 level, so I still follow. I know who Dake is. Mm-hmm. And to go along with what you're saying, Tom, is, I follow the wrestling world, and a lot of these guys, like Dake was a 4-time national champ. First guy ever to do it in 4 weight classes. He kicked ass. Yep. And he will tell you, because I stayed at it, I'm way better now, 10 years later than I was then. And I'm better, I'm stronger and all that. And it's because they had that baseline and they kept going and all of that. And a lot of these guys get hired as head coaches, but mostly assistant coaches. And in the D1 world, the head coach really doesn't do much at practice. He's a recruiter and all that stuff. And the assistant coaches are hired. We need you to be a workout partner. And you take a guy that's 30 years old, wrestling a guy that was last year's NCAA champion, and he absolutely cleans that guy's ass. Yep. It's not even close, you know what I mean? For the maturity and all of that. So I guess what we're both saying is, don't stop. Keep in the game and all that, and keep learning, keep doing hard things. So let's get into training for combat. First couple of combat or any combat deployment, I'm sure you were guys prepared. I know you guys go through a hell of a pre-deployment package and all that, so you're at the top of your skills and all of that. Anything take you by surprise? Like, ooh, that one we could have spent more time on, or like we thought we were going to do this, but we spent most of our time doing that. That's a skill we didn't spend enough on. And then in subsequent deployments, we paid more attention to that.
Yes and yes, yet I would go back and answer that differently. Problem with being a SEAL is you're a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
You're 60% everywhere, and you're not 100% anywhere. But, given the question that, or at least the topic of the podcast is, combat. Just remember, you're a combatant. You should spend a lot of time shooting. Make sure that you can shoot, because ultimately it doesn't matter how good you are, how great communicator you are. If you can't shoot, it changes everything. Whether you're a Marine, whether you're an Air Force person and you're, dropping bombs, whatever that ultimate thing is that you're called to do, that should be a majority of your mental and physical effort. And to me, shooting was the ultimate game. So if you can't shoot, spend more time doing that. So shooting skills are the primary skill of, I think, combat. Secondary skill is the tactics to get you in a position to shoot. And, Marine Corps, maneuvering to the target, lateral movement, practice getting up and getting down, and functioning with 2 or 3 other people. We call them IADs, drills where we're shooting and moving, communicating, getting under cover, finding cover, all those tactical things, seeing dead space. That's a attritable skill. Taking cover is an attritable skill. So unless you're practicing those skills that you're going to do, even though they're pain in the ass to crawl around, if you're not practicing those skills, you're not all of a sudden going to do it really good in combat. The tertiary skills are, and I don't know if anybody would say this openly, learn how to turn the switch off while you're in not in the moment, but after combat. You have to learn how to take downtime. I don't think the Marine Corps does it very well because they have shitty living conditions, but you have to come back from something, rest, eat well, and then turn everything off. Like I can't be on, even if I'm in combat engage or deployment, I can't be on tactically the whole time. I have to take time off. I have to turn my brain off. I have to not be solving tactical problems 24 hours a day. That, to me, made the biggest difference is learning the off switch. The on switch we all got really well. How to be tactically sound because you train all the time. The off switch, I need to refill my tank and then take some time, take care of my brain, my ability to sleep and manage myself and to get healthy again. And we saw the Army units that were living out with the Afghanis and the Iraqis. They're subhuman after about 3 months because they don't get the off switch. Not a vacation, but you need the off switch. SEALs learned that a long time ago. Your on switch is 100% and your off switch is 0. Where you, if it was you and I, Mike, today, you're 0. You're not responsible or accountable to anything. I want you to go away in your room all day and just eat, stretch, take care of yourself, but you don't have any responsibility today. That day will boost you up to the point where you are a whole different human being. Yeah. Without it, you stay at 30%, which is terrible. So that to me is the key. You think about wrestlers. And we use that as a great analogy. And I actually had heard Kyle, I had interviewed him, spent some time interviewing him. His break is 0. When he takes a break, he doesn't think of himself as a wrestler.
Yeah.
He sleeps well. What a great skill. Like, go to 0. I'm not responsible to being a world champion right now. I have to take a break from this, because you can't keep processing all that stuff over time. Like, I always felt sorry for the guys that went to, at least the soldiers and sailors that went to, and Marines that went to World War II. They didn't get any off time. They're going from one battle to the other, sleeping in the field. They're still on watch. That is a horrific way to exist for 4 years. And then you start doing, they were dysfunctional because they didn't get the off switch. SEALs learned that not a long time ago, probably 10 years into the war. We can't keep people 100%. And then we did a big analysis that you had 30% of your capacity after, if you were on for 2 weeks without a break, you're operating at 30% of your capacity.
Yeah, I believe that.
That's horrific. Yeah. And you probably see businesses, they go from one sprint to the other. They don't get any downtime, and they're just operating at 30%.
Yeah.
Give people a week off. Watch what happens. They're miracles. They come back. They're better. They're excited. They're making better decisions, and they're tactically better. So we spent a lot of our time being 100%, and then we spent, days not being responsible to doing anything.
Yeah, I want to add what I have heard. An anecdote. If you remember Band of Brothers, that Captain Dick Winters said that he realized, I think it was the Battle of the Bulge, that these guys were getting hammered and they were freezing their ass off. And he said, I found that I could avoid, PTSD, combat fatigue, if I just sent the guys to the rear for a few hours and said, go back, get some coffee and hot chow. And he said, the rear was 75 yards from me. That's where the battalion was, but they had tents and dugouts.
Yep.
Go back there. We got it. Go back there for 4 hours. What I heard was that some Marine grunt leaders said, all right, we're out here. We're out at this, outpost. We can't send, here. But what I can do is every night or during the day, we can appoint, the staff sergeant and squad leaders can say, you 3 guys, for the next 5 hours, you got no job but to sleep.
Yep.
You'll hear us if we need you. You'll hear the fighting, but go sleep. Even at night, you're going to get a good night's sleep. And he said, we're doing what we can to reset these guys. And some of them said, I could send guys, if we were sending people back to resupply and all of that, I could send guys back and say, I want you to go back. The gunny's going to go back today to pick some shit up. I want you to go back with him. He'll show you where you can take a shower, get some hot shower, call your wife or your mom or whatever. And in that 4 or 5 or 8 hours that he's away, the kid comes back a new man, So my point, I want to
fill your tank. It comes in the teams, even in combat, it becomes a weird, like if you were to observe a functional SEAL platoon, ones that have been together for a while, maybe 3 or 4 deployments together, maybe 2 together, they toggle that off and on switch so quickly, you're like, oh, wow. So in the middle of firefights, they'll be on, and then they'll take cover, and they'll turn it off. Like, I'm undercover here. Nobody's shooting at me. I have to hit the off switch for a second because I can't process this. And the conversations will be like, hey, how's your wife? hey, how's your daughter? Isn't she going to go? Hey, I can't wait to hear how your daughter did. And then they'll be like, okay, on switch, and they get back into the fight. And then there's a law in the fighting, and if I don't have to be on, I don't want the on switch to be turned on. And I thought my job, as a platoon chief was going to be make all these great tactical decisions. My guys knew what to do. They didn't know how to have the off switch turned on.
Yeah.
So I would go up and like, hey, a guy named Mike Tatham, hey, what do you need? And he goes, a can of Copenhagen. I said, no, like ammo. He's like, I don't need any of that. I said, are you sure you don't need anything? He goes, yeah, why don't you come up here? So I would go up into like the sniper position with him. And I was also a sniper. And I would be like wanting to, talk me through the field. What do you think is going to happen? He just wanted to talk about something that wasn't related to combat.
Yeah.
Like, hey, boss, I got this. I don't need your input, but I need some human factor here I don't have to deal with all the complexity that's in front of me. And we would talk about irrelevant things. And my officer's like, God, why do you guys talk about all that stuff? I'm like, he wanted me to talk about a girlfriend. That's what we talked about.
Yeah.
He doesn't need me to tell him where to point the freaking gun. He's been doing this for 8 years. And I really thought by the genius of, being around other wolves is they know what to do. They just need you to help them turn off. And I saw guys that couldn't turn off, and I would have to pull them off going, hey, no, you're done. You're done. You're not going out on this mission. You're dysfunctional, because they couldn't turn the switch off by themselves.
Yeah. I want to go into another topic that I think is rarely discussed, but if you're in any kind of serious combat against a formidable enemy, it's going to happen. That's the topic of casualties. So and I know you've seen them, and experienced them. So some thoughts again to these guys that haven't been there, done that yet, but they're going there. And some of them are going there in the leadership roles. They're not going to get the benefit of being a PFC and then going back as a staff sergeant or a captain. Effects of friendly casualties, their teammates on the troops, on leaders, and then the anomaly where what happens when that guy that everybody loves, doesn't matter what rank he is, everybody just loves this guy. He is an influence. He's the guy, everybody likes this guy, and he gets killed.
Yep.
What are the effects
or
of
injured
that?
or maimed? Yeah, same thing.
Yeah. What are the effects? What did you witness, and what did you learn to do to mitigate that,
We were originally talking about grit and toughness. No matter how tough you are, death steals something from you. Whether you kill the enemy and are kind of unemotional about the killing of it, death still takes its toll on you. Even if you're just seeing the enemy, the devastation of what you do to the enemy, it takes its toll over time. As a leader, you got to recognize that. You're not going to be able to demand them be tough about that. In Afghanistan, the first 3 months we were there, we were doing ramp ceremonies 6 nights a week. And I'm like, bro, I'm tough, but I don't fucking want to do this anymore. Jack died leaving 3 kids. I'm like, I didn't know Jack, but I can only hear that so much going, and I saw my guy's energy just dying, but we were obligated to go out and do these ceremonies. And I went to our senior, the colonel that was running the camp, and I'm like, hey, I'm not a pussy, but we can't do that. We can't keep doing this. I know it's supporting the overall mission, making us all a team, but my guys are losing the desire to be here. And he's like, okay, well, I get that. I said, I'm not coming. And you can send me home, but the more I go, the less I want to do this work. And so we made the decision as a troop that unless it was a Green Beret or a team guy, we weren't obligated to go. And boy, the energy of everybody's, like their soul came back into their body. They were more available, they were more responsive, but 3 months of getting just the browbeat of knowing death is imminent, you can't sit there all the time. And if you're going to be a leader in a combat environment, don't force people to face that every freaking day. And don't force yourself as a colonel or a major or a commander to be a part of every death scenario, because it will zap you 100%. And it's a big leadership topic. It's not great to sit and watch people die. Right. And don't force yourself to do that. It's going to happen. Don't force yourself every day to encounter the sending people home or even watching or doing it. It's a terrible thing to ask of people.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Tom. And you're already touching on my next question. I had a good network still in the Marine Corps, and early on, and I'd say in the first 4 or 5 years of post 9/11 action in both major AOs, the Marines I knew said, nobody taught us what to do with these memorial services. Do we have them right away? Do we consolidate them all once a week? What do we do? How do we conduct them? Whatever. So what do you recommend? Because again, these casualties are going to happen. These deaths are going to happen. And, if you're in a protracted fight and you want to do right and have a memorial service, what seemed to work with you? What do you recommend? First of all, I recommend, I know you're going to agree, fellas, recognize there's going to be a need for this, and you may not be in charge of it. Like Tom, that might be the colonel saying we're all showing up every friggin' day, and you got to stand tall and say, hey, maybe we can rotate them out. So I know I'm blathering all over the place. Any advice on memorial services, when to do it, how to do it, who's involved, and any after effects? So you got to go around and talk to your guys again after that,
Well, so say at the memorial service conversation, be quick and be done. Don't let it drag out. So as soon as you can get that injured person away or that dead person accounted for and out of your purview, the better opportunities you are to keep doing well in combat.
Yeah.
If you can respond like the Keiko person, the person that has to tell the family or whatever, it can't be the same person. So if you have a unit that's losing a lot of people, even that person back in the States that has to then go forward to the family and talk to the family, if they're doing that your whole year-long deployment or 6-month deployment, you might as well kiss their career goodbye because they're done. Imagine, when you were in having to go to a new wife every week and tell them that Bubba's gone, you're like, I'm done. I'm not interested in my career anymore. So rotate the responsibility of communicating death to people or letting people sit there and watch these dead bodies go on a plane. Rotate that thing. Everybody knows I have to do it, but I don't have to do it every day and every person. If you were to put something into play to destroy my enemy, I would make them see death all the time because they're going to fall apart. They will quit. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that 2 points, and I think you agree with this. So for those listening, you may be involved in these ceremonies as the junior guy. You also may be the very, very senior guy. And I say what I think you're saying, Tom, is do right by the departed, but you also have to do right by the living.
Oh, the retained people, it's affecting them more. That the dead person is not.
Yep.
They're okay. They're either in God's hand or the devil's. One of those two things has happened, or they're in purgatory, whatever. Doing right to honor the dead, that's the easiest part. It's the one that there's no course in that. Now they're a little more accountable to it.
Yep.
If all you're doing is seeing dead bodies, you are tracking on that plane yourself, and it's very difficult. So as a leader, this is coming. Be open and available to hear what the guys are talking about. They'll be stoic a little bit. That's okay, man. I didn't know Jack. Damn, that's 18 Jacks. Hey, how's this affecting you? And they'll be straightforward, like, hey, boss, I don't fucking want to go anymore. I'm done. And if they can't tell you that, they're already going to tap out.
Yeah.
And, hey, talk this through. Man, I never thought this was going to be like this. I'm like, neither did I. And once you are able to communicate it, it's fine, but you still can't do it every day. You can't communicate it away every day. If you're involved with death every day, you will follow that track.
Yeah, and I want to pass on another old guy anecdote. I cannot tell you how many Vietnam guys I knew, Tom, that said, I got back from Vietnam, first tour, second tour, had been wounded, whatever. And I told the monitor, hey, I need a break. I said, great, I'm going to send you out to I&I duty. You're going to go work with the reserves. They're not deploying in Vietnam. Be a good break. What they didn't tell them is, hey, while you're out there, you're the Keiko too.
Oh my goodness.
You're the Keiko. And I'm telling you, Tom, if I've talked to one, I've talked to a dozen of these guys that said, this was so bad, I volunteered to go back to Vietnam.
100%. Yep.
I'm like, get me out of here. I'd rather go back to combat. I can't do this anymore.
The hardest thing you ever do.
I cannot face another set of parents or a wife, and I see the little boy looking out at me. I can't do it anymore. And so the reason why I'm saying this is that's a real-time conversation I've had with a bunch of people. And if you're the senior guy, you may not necessarily be in combat. You may be that reserve colonel or whatever. And I'm saying what you're saying, whoever they are, whatever duty, whatever AO you're in, the guy delivering that news, he's in his own form of combat.
Oh, terrible. And you can't win it. And that stink lingers. I don't have a lot of lingering, negativity from combat itself. Those ramp ceremonies were brutal. Like, I don't even like to talk about them. I didn't even know any. I knew maybe 6 of the people that died out of probably 150. I was like, man. And my wife, Stacy, and I talk about that. She goes, man, that's the only time you get all broken up. I'm like, I hated to see that. I got angry at first, and then I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore. It's terrible. Like the devastation in combat, who cares? I could walk away from that in 5 minutes, but you as a leader, if you're putting bodies in the ground, you better know that your men are going to have an issue with it, and your women.
Well, I'm glad we're spending that much time on it because, SEAL teams, Marines, airborne, grunts, whatever, macho. Well, it sucks. Harry was a good guy. Let's go, And I think we're spending enough time to tell these people that are about to do it and who will do it, whether it's 10 years or 2 years or 25 years from now, you can't macho way you're through this if you're doing it on a sustained basis.
Yeah.
And you better, like anything else, you better do it intelligently, or you're going to have combat casualties who are perfectly healthy, but you've worn them out mentally.
You'll wear yourself out. It's the one thing I've not seen anybody resolve very well.
Yeah.
Is having to be a Keiko or, putting enemy on the plane or in the ground or friends on the plane. I don't know if there's a limit. I think the number is very small. and it's a skunk smell that you can't get out. You as leaders or even young Marines or anybody, it's cool to be a tough guy, but nobody in war can get that stink out.
Yeah, I agree. And I can't tell you how many guys told me, Mike, this is the one thing we were entirely unprepared for. Yep. Entirely unprepared to do it. And so here I got a senior guy crying in front of the troops, and they're looking like, God damn, if he's crying, I should be crying too. What the hell? This is really bad. I hope the Marine Corps and the other services have gotten better at this, but when you're out of combat, the squeaky wheel gets to grease, and this is probably not getting talked about much. I think the older guys would say, man, he's absolutely right. But we're not training to it right now because we're not going to war. Hopefully, podcasts like this and discussions like this will remind somebody, and they'll say 18 years later, getting ready to do these ceremonies. And I remember somebody put a splinter of thought in my mind. Yep. So, well, listen, our time is running out, Thom, but I want to get your opportunity to, share a war story. You've shared so much in the few hours of content and conversation here. Is there any one personal experience? Yeah, I know you've had many, but is there any one that had such a profound impact on you in combat? Can you share that? And are there any lessons that others can learn from that?
The most profound experience I had in SEALs wasn't in combat. I don't think it's kind of stupid to say it, but it took me forever to get through SEAL training. And I kept getting injured in Bud's training. I made it to Hell Week 4 times and got injured in 4 of the Hell Weeks, and they kicked me out of training, and I had to come back. And in my 5th class, I made it through. There's a lot of lessons that I think are relevant to anybody that's a human. Don't give up. The skill set learned by not giving up is the best skill that I think I've ever learned in my life. If you don't give up, great things happen. And I don't recommend anybody failing a bunch of times. But as a skill set, I think it's the most profound thing that affected everything else that I did in my life. And I don't let my kids give up. And my daughter's a freaking badass warrior flying for TF-160. My son's going into the military, and they learn not to give up. And they want to all the time.
Yeah.
And it's easy. But I see the other side of giving up on small things. Don't. And that, to me, then when I took that don't give up into combat, it made things very simple and easy. I'm not going to give up. If I don't give up, I'll keep solving the problem that's in front of me. And I never went through any combat experience where the thought of giving up was always there. I was like, it would be a lot easier just to run. If we weren't here, let's just not even take the target. God. But I knew in the back of my mind, if I don't quit, great things happen. And I think that, to me, it's the greatest thing to demonstrate to your family, to businesses, and you coach leaders. My rendition of helping leaders lead is they give up all the time. They give up all the time, and then they learn not to, and then their company blooms. When the top guy gives up when things are tough, everybody else does too. And when they break that, or they put that bridge over that freaking river, I don't care if we fail, but we're just not going to give up on this thing. Then great things happen. And that's what, like the predicate of my training is I'm going to teach you not to give up. I don't know if it's a great way to end, but I think it.
Oh, it's a perfect way to end. That's been my experience as well. And personally,
And like you, Mike, don't give up. I know what you're going through.
Yeah.
Every day, bro. It's a whole new day. Keep after it, man.
Well, relative to that, Tom, I know you'll appreciate this. I told my children, this cancer might kill me, but I'll never die from it. And they're like, what the hell is he talking about?
Absolutely.
I said, well, it might kill me, but dying from it means I surrendered to it.
Yep, 100%.
And that is never going to happen. And they just looked at me because I want them to remember, the old guy, it may kill me, but he never surrendered, And so on that note,
the great
Tom,
theory is slide in sideways, brother.
there you go. That's exactly right. I'm doing my best. Well, listen, Tom, how can people find you, your books, your services? How do they contact you?
I have a website, thomshea.com. And we are committed to helping leaders and teams improve in every area. And we look forward to communicating when you communicate with us.
Cool. Well, I can't thank you enough, Tom. It's been great. Selfishly, I would ask that you consider coming back and doing another one someday on a topic of your choice. Got so much wisdom to share with the young guys, and it's gold. You dropped a lot of gold nuggets here, so I truly appreciate it, my friend.
Well, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
And wishing you nothing but the best. Take care of yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Please subscribe, rate, review, and recommend to your friends. Please visit our website at combatleadership.com. Until next time, remember the words of the ancient philosopher Plato. Only the dead have seen the end of war.